topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Welcome to the Songwriter Show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I welcome you back wholeheartedly. I'm your host, Sarantos, a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are very important to me, and that's why I'm so thrilled to host this show for you every Tuesday evening. I strongly believe that every song is a story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on number one ranked W4CY Radio and has listeners in all 26 countries in the world and every state in America. The station is licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange, and has partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. I want to take a second to apologize. I have a really bad cold, and you're going to struggle through this show with me, but I will do my best to be as, make sure you understand what I'm talking about. So tonight's first guest is Atlas from Chords of Eve. Chords of Eve is an American music project created in 2019 and consisting of multi-instrumentalist Atlas Cage, featuring various female vocalists and the debut of vocalist Casey Ardmore. The band defines their music as pop, electronica, alternative, and trip-hop, and they describe their sound as futuristic psych pop. Welcome to the show, Atlas. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Toronto's doing all right, man. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So you definitely have a very eclectic, interesting kind of fusion thing going on there.
Yeah, Chords of Eve that one's an interesting project. That's one I've been kind of wanting to get into for a while, and just finally had the opportunity and getting to work with Casey. We really were able to pull something great together.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you get down that path? Like, how did you figure out this genre, this fusion that you're trying to do here?
You know, it sounds kind of strange, but honestly, it's more of a story I had in my head that led to it. And I've always kind of wanted to do this sci-fi kind of trip-hop project. And honestly, I've always loved that kind of just chill beats kind of music. And I mean, my background's all rock and roll with the Strings of Atlas stuff and Megaton before that. It's all been just hard, heavy rock. But this was something I kind of wanted to try out, do something a little different on it. And I never quite had the right sound vocally that I wanted to go for. And it turns out Casey she was an improv person, and she was doing theater, and I heard her singing, and I was like, wow, she has a great voice. And talked to her about it. She was interested in the project, and that was it. And the rest is history.
Wow. How do you guys think you work well together? Did it just kind of come naturally from the beginning? Did you guys work it out? How did it come to be?
Yeah, honestly, like, our personalities just meshed pretty well. So it made creating this side story in this project a lot easier. And we come from two very different backgrounds, her with theater performance and me, in kind of music, to where I was focusing more on instrument-wise and she was more on the performance side of things. And it's kind of cool when you get that outside perspective and two people hearing one song a different way from two different points. It really, I think, just kind of rounds it out. Yeah.
How do you guys collaborate? Do you do the music? Does she do the, give us an idea of how you guys work together.
Yeah, on this particular EP, this is actually our debut that's coming out in April. And it was a series of songs that I had written a while back. But like I said, I couldn't quite get that sound that I was looking for. And then we met up, we went over it, and I gave her my very terrible vocal takes on it, on what I was trying to make it sound like. And she just took it and turned it into gold afterwards. So I play guitar, bass, and drums. Do a lot of electronic programming, a little bit on keyboards, not too much. And I used to intern at this place called the Sonic Ranch in Tornillo, and their head engineer, he and I have been buds for over a decade now, and he still helps me. His name's Charles Godfrey. He always helps me kind of smooth out these sounds, and he just has a great ear for things. So, yeah, with the three of us working on it, we got a pretty solid, interesting kind of futuristic project.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing in this business is to find people you mesh with or people that you can collaborate, and it's just kind of effortless. There's no fighting over who's going to get what split, and it just kind of works. You just bounce ideas off each other. So it's cool that you found that. That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely very lucky, that's for sure.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about you yourself. When did you get into music?
Oh man, when did I get into music? I would say the more official version was probably high school. Before that, I did things like I played a little bit of acoustic guitar. I played in an orchestra, but high school was where I got my first electric, and that was like, this is what I'm doing right here. This is the sound I'm going for. Yeah. And I started in a metal band, of all things, and it was just me grunting and growling and playing as fast as I possibly could. And yeah, from there, in college, I started to get into production. I started producing for other people. I met some people who did hip hop, and I started getting into that. And then working different people doing scoring for short films and student films. So I got to learn about sound design and Foley art that way. And Strings of Atlas I've been doing forever. I think I've been doing that about 12 years now. That's my longest running rock project. And then every couple of years, something new is coming up like that. And Chords of Eve is the new jam to try out,
Yeah. How do you start coming up with songs? You do lyrics first, melody. Do you get a pad going? Or guitar? How do you get started?
Really, there's not like a set formula for it or like a way, like I don't really have a ritual to it. A lot of times I'll hear something that'll trigger a melody or, a vocal line in my head, and I just have to go and write it down and get it going. Sometimes I'll be listening to a song and I'll hear something completely different in the song that no one else is hearing, and this when I play it, I'm like, no, it's the same thing. And they're like, no, I can't hear this at all. And it'll be from that, I'll just have to start writing. And sometimes it's lyrically, I feel like that's probably the toughest one for me, is coming up with a really, really good but catchy story in a song. So I feel like, songs have to be catchy, but sometimes they're a little too catchy, a little too pop, and they're losing some meaning behind it. But if I ever come across something where I hear someone just say something really, really insightful or inspiring to me, I'm like, okay, what's the full message behind that? How do we make that into a track? And I'll sit for hours and just keep playing something over and over until it kind of, the song starts writing itself.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you like in high school?
Nerdy.
Nerdy, hey.
Nerdy.
I was and still am a total nerd. So long. I don't know if you remember the movie Revenge of the Nerds. That was, no, man, I totally feel that. And I think we're so popular nowadays. I mean, everybody wants to be a nerd, but there's nothing wrong with that.
We have some fun. It's all good.
Yeah. So we got our first question of the night for you from Jenna. Do you find people are understanding your meaning? I think she means with your music and your lyrics.
I think so. I think the Chords of Eve project in particular is a lot more direct and a lot less nuanced in terms of it's a lot of like dealing with struggle and isolation and that sort of thing and overcoming it and getting through it. And I think it's very direct. In terms of older projects, so like there's different projects, actually not older, we got a new EP coming out. But Strings of Atlas, like that one, I kind of take a more abstract approach on the lyrics too. Just because I feel like a lot of times it's more interesting to be a bit more poetic in something when you're doing like, I don't know, hard rock or anything kind of like psychedelic-y kind of rock. If you're too straightforward with it, I feel like people don't quite feel that groove. But in other cases, you have to be very straightforward to really get to connect with people. Sometimes you're trying to connect a vibe, and sometimes you're trying to connect the message. And I think in this particular one for Chords of Eve, I think has a very direct, very clear message that people can connect to. Yeah.
Anybody that you'd want to jam with, if you could pick, dead or alive?
Oh man, so many, so many. Like even I would say my ultimate jam dream there would be Dave Windorf from Monster Magnet. That guy. Their stuff is what got Strings of Atlas started, honestly. I think it was Dopes to Infinity. I heard that album when I was working at this music shop, little record store in El Paso. And I was like, man, I need more of this. I need all of this. And just got obsessed with their albums.
Do you think, are you kind of bummed like me that record stores are fading and stuff? Because I don't know. I was kind of a nerd. I'd go in there and just browse through vinyls and recut, anything I get my hands on. Do you miss that, or were you never kind of into that stuff?
No, definitely. I'm a big collector of everything entertainment. I collect video games, music. Got a semi-decent vinyl collection. Not too much, only because vinyl, it's getting so hard to find and everything. But I honestly, as much as I love technology and what it does for us now, I'm a big tech guy. I still feel like having a physical product is just, it's something different. It's something you can't really explain. That you still have the music if it's digital, it's still on your phone, but holding a CD and having it there and having the artwork and having like the notes in the book and the lyrics written in it, all of that's great. Because I feel like there's a lot of, my fiance designed the cover art for this particular album, and it looks great on a computer, but I'm like, this needs to be a poster. It needs to be up somewhere. And we're losing a lot of the physical stores in that, and it's really pushing towards digital, which is still great. But yeah, I feel like holding it in your hands, there's this magic to that.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I made the mistake when I was younger. I had a huge vinyl collection with, of course, my mom gave them away to my cousins. So I regretted that when I kind of went off to college and stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. There's nothing like that vintage stuff, too.
Yeah, and so hard to find now.
Yeah. Well, you can find it, but it's like reproduced, and it's just not the same, man.
Or $100 a pop.
All right.
Yeah.
We got a couple more fans that have questions for you. Beth is asking, what brought you in that direction?
In terms of musical style, or?
Yeah, she asked us a couple minutes ago when we were talking about that.
Honestly, I think what really brings me towards any music project that I have a hand in is just broadening my taste in music. Which I think that's a habit I get from my mom, where she was like, listen to everything. No matter what I had that I was playing, it didn't matter if it was this weird, growling, demented kind of metal, or if it was a jazz album or anything like that. It was always like, you can find something good in every type of music. And I was in a guitar shop recently at Lark's Guitars, and this guy said, there's only two kinds of music. There's good music and bad music. That's it. I thought that was pretty funny. I'm like, it's kind of true in a way. There's music you like and music you don't. And I think just the more you're exposed to different genres and kind of stepping out of that box of, well, yeah, I like rock and roll, but what else is out there? I think it can really be inspiring. And honestly, taking part in other projects that are completely different from the style you're used to kind of gives you a fresh perspective when you go back to your original style. I find it definitely helps in the rock and roll. You have a new perspective now. Yeah,
absolutely. So Corey is asking, why does that make you a nerd?
What? Because I watched a lot of anime and I played a lot of video games. And our weekends where everyone else was going out to party, we were like, all right, we got this Final Fantasy game. We're going to try to beat this, and we're going to do a speed run on it. Sunday, 5 a.m. Everyone's going to be up and doing this. I think that is what made me nerdy in high school, and it makes me nerdy now. I still do it.
Yeah. Oh, and if I didn't have this thing called a job, when I retire, I think I'm just going to play video games all day. Hopefully spoil the crap out of grandkids if I have them by then, and that's pretty much it. And make music, of course. But let's not forget that. Wait a minute. I didn't want my priorities to be messed up. Now I'm not going to get famous because I didn't put music first. But
oh man, you got to make music for video games.
That's right.
That's both worlds right there.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your website, your social media. Where can people reach out to you, hear your stuff, buy your stuff?
Yeah, so everything that we put up, we try to get streamed on Spotify and Pandora. So if you're a streamer, you can definitely hear it there. We got a pre-save campaign going on now for the Chords of Eve stuff. And of course, we got the website set up as well, which is under the record label name of Sky Titan Media. So if you go to skytitanmedia.com, you'll see the Strings of Atlas stuff. You'll see Chords of Eve. You'll see our behind-the-scenes vlog, which is just daily nonsense that we get into as people. It's kind of like the Step Out, where it's like, okay, these are the artists and musicians, but what do they do in their regular life? We've got some beat makers on there, so you'll see the Psycho Phoenix, and everything is listed on that. And then, of course, we got our usual Instagram and Facebook. If you're looking for Chords of Eve, Sky Titan, Strings of Atlas, all on there.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about this song we're going to hear in about 5 minutes here.
Yeah, so we got Bright Side playing, And that one's kind of it's a more upbeat, a little more poppy, kind of in the vein of like Billie Eilish with Phantogram kind of feels to it. It's definitely got a dreamier sense. There's like a vocal chant that kind of goes on in the chorus of it. And it was really just kind of written as more of to be a positive message of that, like when things are not quite going right, don't let it bring you down completely. You know, it's like, okay, everyone feels sad, everyone feels this kind of isolation, but there is a bright side to it. And it actually, that song started with a synth note that I had just layered up, and it had this very kind of warm wash that for some reason reminded me of the old sci-fi movie Sunshine.
Yeah.
And when he's standing in the room looking at the sun and they have that guard up and he's letting it down a little more and it completely washes out the room. That was like the vibe I saw in that track. And I wanted the lyrics and the music to give the listener that same effect, to make them just feel kind of washed over in this warm light.
Cool. You got any hidden superpowers we should know about?
Hidden superpowers? I mean, I can do a pretty good flip. I can't land it very well. I can flip and land on my back.
That's
Maybe.
Wow. That's I kind of fantasized about being in a Marvel movie and being able to do that, but that's pretty cool that you could actually do a flip.
Oh, there you go. I actually I've been doing a semi-professional wrestling career for about a year and a half now, which is where I learned how to do that.
Wow. So can you do it standing still, or do you have to like run?
No, I'm trying to perfect the stand. I want to get to a point where I can just stand and flip and land completely upright in the exact same spot. I can do a pretty good forward flip on it now, but I get out of space a little bit. But
that is
no
crazy.
Running. Just straight movement.
So Netflix recommended, and of course I had to watch it because I listen to what Netflix recommends, the Cheer documentary. Dude, you gotta, if you just see like a couple episodes, it's insane. The stunts and the flips that these people do. It is crazy.
Yeah, I just had a friend tell me about that. She's like, you got to check this out. It didn't even cross my mind, but I'm like, okay, I can get a few recommendations. That's the second now, so I might have to check it out.
It's insane because, I'm like a football, baseball kind of guy, but man, and you see them get injured. It's like, wow, crazy.
They got to give it up for them. They're doing their thing and they're doing it well.
Yeah. All right. I got one more question for you. So I kind of like to ask everybody on the show to protect all of us, and just so people kind of understand any scams you've fallen for, anything you've heard of that you want to warn us about, just so we can kind of protect each other.
Never, ever go with anything that allows you to buy views or streams. I have fallen in that scam before a long, long time ago when YouTube was starting, and it did not end well. It ended up corrupting a bunch of data for me that I've learned now in marketing is very important. And there are so many companies and so many people out there who take advantage of what artists don't know and want to, prey on what they want, which is this audience, these numbers, these listeners, and it completely ruins you. So if someone can get you to people's ears, great. If they're going to alter your number, they guarantee you a number, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, I've been there myself, and you're right. It's pretty much the worst thing you can do because you think all of a sudden that you have a presence in wherever, Turkey, Bangladesh, and it's all fake, and it doesn't matter because those people are never going to buy anything, and they're never going to be real. They're not going to engage, and it just pollutes things. You're right.
Yeah, especially even if you do have an audience there, it's usually not going to them, unfortunately. It's going to these bot farms, these click farms, and it never actually even gets to the people who do want to hear it.
Yeah. All right, Atlas, man, this was an absolute pleasure. Love to have you back on the show anytime. Wish you nothing but the best, and we're going to hear your song right now.
All right, Santos, thank you.
All right, man, have a great night.
You
So
too.
here we go. Chords of Eve.
Look
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Our next guest is DL Byron. DL Byron became enamored with the Beatles, the Byrds, and Bob Dylan at an early age. When he wasn't busy getting thrown out of a string of exclusive prep schools, he formed several teenage garage bands and won a number of poetry competitions. Byron moved to New York in 1971, and he's been going at it ever since. Welcome to the show, DL Byron. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So you have some interesting influences. Tell us a little bit about what would you describe your main body of work as, if you could pick a genre or style or an artist?
Well, it's kind of tough to do that. I mean, the debut record I did for Aristo was kind of like punk new wave. It was very much, driving power pop, basically. But as a writer, I'm sort of all over the map. So it's hard to just put everything like a box.
Okay. What's your main instrument?
Guitar and piano, keyboards.
Okay. Is that how you start writing a song?
Yeah, usually I'll just start, fooling around with a chord progression or a melody and work with something that's, tangible and, cohesive. And then once I have everything sort of lined up melody-wise and chord structure-wise, I'll start, tackling the lyrics and doing that.
Okay. And do you have people that you can bounce ideas off of? How do you decide if something's going to make the cut, if it's something you're ever going to release, put on a CD, or just discard it, put it in your future pile?
I play things for my family and friends and try to get their reaction without, without leaning on them too heavily. But usually I can sort of suss things out.
Okay. So tell us about Clive Davis. What ended up happening? I heard that he signed you, and tell us a little bit about that. That seems pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was at the time. I was signed to Arista, and it kind of went like crazy there for a few minutes. It was like a very hot thing, and the record got a lot of great reviews. And I was on tour opening up for major acts at Coliseums and stuff like that, like playing 15, 20,000 seaters. And then all of a sudden, it was just a big sort of pullback. And I think that the record wasn't selling as much as Arista was hoping that it would. And I was put on suspension. And during that time, I had a 2-album firm deal with Arista. So there would be a second record, but only when Clive said there could be. So I started writing songs and turning them in, or submitting them rather, for my second record. And one of them was Shadows of the Night, which my producer, Jimmy Iovine, loved and wanted to put it in a movie that he was working on. But Clive, they got back to me from Clive's office and said, Clive says this is not commercial. And I said, no. So I started to shop the song to different labels, thinking that maybe, I can get somebody to cover it if I wasn't going to record it immediately. And I took a meeting with an A&R guy at Chrysalis Records, which was Pat Benatar's label at the time, and she was, sort of a rising star. And lo and behold, after pitching the song, 9 months later she records it, and it becomes a huge hit, and she wins a Grammy, and like that. So it was just, that was sort of like that big turnaround from all the excitement of being signed to Arista to actually getting myself sort of on the map as an actual songwriter.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And, I'm an 80s child, so that's probably one of my most favorite 80s tunes ever. I mean, every time I hear that song, I get pumped up. So it's an honor to talk to you, to be honest with you.
Oh, not at all. Yeah. My pleasure is mine. I never hear it. It's the funniest thing. People call me or they text me and say, I was walking in the supermarket and Shadows came on the sound system. And I'm like, I never hear it. I'm listening to the radio. I go into stores. They're playing everything else but Shadows of the Night. It's the weirdest thing, but it's great. I mean, I'm so happy that it became a big success and people got to enjoy it. And
So tell us a little bit about what you're working on now.
Well, what I've been working on now is basically this book. I don't know if you know about it, but it's called Shadows of the Night. And it's about my experiences in the music business, but it also centers in on my adoption story, which is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, all adoption stories are kind of interesting. They're all different. But in my case, I was adopted just after birth, and my mother was not quite psychologically ready for it. In fact, she was cross-addicted to prescription medications, amphetamines and barbiturates. Around age 8, realizing that I didn't look anything like my parents, I questioned her about, what's the deal? And she told me that I was indeed adopted, and my real mother had died in childbirth. So I was like stunned by that. Even my 8-year-old brain could wrap around that idea and realize that I was responsible for my mom's demise. So I kind of didn't believe her, and I carried the hope of meeting my mother with me through my whole career and never let that go. And finally, in the late 90s, through a strange turn of events, I wound up meeting my mother, who was very much alive, and also 7 sisters.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like winning the lottery.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I've been sort of, working on publicizing my book, Shadows of the Night, which is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble or wherever you want to go get books. But that's what I've been doing recently. And I'm just starting to right now to get myself back into songwriting, because it's a whole different mindset. When you write a book, I've discovered, it's a lot different than songwriting.
Yeah, I can tell you, I go back and forth too, because I put out a new song and video every month, but I also write a book chapter for that song, and then put 11 songs at the end of the year, 11 book chapters into one book. So I'm on my 7th book currently, and the one advantage I have found is you have a lot more words that you can use in a book compared to a song. But, sometimes that's hard too. It's not the easiest thing. You think sometimes it is, but sometimes it's more challenging.
Definitely. Yeah. I had no idea. What I was getting into when I started out to write the book. I wrote the outline, and then all of a sudden I was knee deep in the book and didn't realize it was a lot of hard work. And I didn't see that coming. I just thought it was going to be sort of a cakewalk, and it was anything but. But I had some interesting and positive help from some editors that I hired along the way, and I think it came out fairly well. So I'm very grateful for that.
Do you find it challenging having 2 different things in terms of managers, publicists, just having music and songs and books? How do you figure out what to spend your time on any given, day, month, year?
Yeah, I know that it can be an issue, but I just, I go with my gut or my heart, whatever, and it's sort of, I allow myself to be quietly led rather than try to force the issue. I'll just whatever comes my way is sort of like what happens. I'm sort of pretty easy about that.
Yeah.
I try not to be too hard on myself, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. If I had my phone with me right now, I would jot down quietly led, because I love that phrase, I don't know if you have like a journal or something where you jot down phrases whenever you read about or see something, but that's a very cool line.
Oh, well, good. Maybe I should write it down.
Yeah, that's right. What's the weirdest thing that's happened to you in the last year that you want to share with us?
Ooh. Wow. The weirdest thing. I don't know what that would be.
Or the coolest thing, whatever comes to mind.
Well, the coolest thing was probably when I moved from like downtown Manhattan to way uptown Manhattan. It was like a totally different vibe and thing up here where we are now. And because we were down in Tribeca before. I don't know if you know the neighborhoods of Manhattan.
Yeah.
But, we lived there for like 14 years. and before that it was the East Village, and before that it was Lower East Side. But now we're up in central Harlem, right near Strivers Row, which is a very sort of historic area. And it's just really, really cool up here. There's just a lot of, it's a lot of rich vibe, color. And just, the music in the streets and everything. Everybody says hello to each other. It's kind of weird. I mean, because downtown, I go to the pharmacy across the street, and if you said hello to anybody, they would look at you cross-eyed,
Yeah.
But now I walk out of the house to walk my dog, and people say good morning, and it's like as you're walking down the street, it's like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not used to that,
Yeah,
but,
it takes a little getting used to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What? Tell us a little bit about. Do you have any projects coming out? Anything you're working on? Spending most of your time?
No, right now I'm sort of gearing up to do some co-writing with some different people. I'm probably going to be going to Nashville pretty shortly, maybe LA after that. Just sort of like hop around and jump into a couple of different projects and see what damage I can do.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm just sort of like, I'm just packing a gun and going out there and seeing what happens. But,
do you prefer to co-write in the same room with people remotely?
I prefer to sit down and like bang it out. Yeah. I'm pretty old school with that.
And how do you sit there and tell yourself you're going to have a day somewhere? You like Ed Sheeran, you go somewhere for a week with a bunch of people and knock out a bunch of stuff, or what's your preference?
It could just be a day with another writer. Just like starting early in the day or just before noon, and just not leaving until you got it.
Yeah.
Or you got most of it, at least,
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your contact information. Where can people look at this book, buy this book, your music? Do you have a website, some social media?
I've dlbyron.com. You could check out my music, and I'm on Spotify, and you can go to my website and buy the book. You could just go to Amazon and search Shadows of the Night book, DL Byron or whatever, and it pops up. Or you can go right to my website, dlbyron.com, and you scroll down and you can just sort of click on the book and it'll take you right to Amazon. So I have a link there.
Cool. You've been doing this a little bit. Any scams or things you want to warn us about, or confess one that happened to you, just so we can kind of protect each other?
Yeah. Well, I guess the only advice I would really have is don't sign an agreement without the assistance of a bona fide entertainment attorney.
Okay.
Just don't sign anything without knowing what you're signing and having the benefit of someone else's expertise.
You mean a publishing agreement, label agreement, or just anything?
Anything. The industry is fraught with weasels, so you always have to sort of be on guard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice people out there too. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of people who really just look to take advantage of artists and writers, and it's you got to be careful.
Yeah, which is kind of sad. Do you feel like it was worse a decade ago? You feel like it's worse now or easier?
I don't know. I mean, the internet's changed everything for everybody, I think. Sometimes I think it's in a really positive way, and sometimes, maybe not so, because I remember the old days and things were just so much more, sort of personal. You were actually in contact with somebody directly. I don't know. It's hard to say. Music business has evolved for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first came to New York, I got signed because I sounded like I was somebody who knew what they were doing. I wrote songs and somebody liked them and said, well, I'll just sign you on the virtue of talent that I'm hearing. Now you can't get signed as a writer like that. You have to walk in with a hit record in your back pocket.
Yeah,
with something.
It almost seems unfair, doesn't it? It's like they want you to have, 1 million followers, have something go viral before they'll even commit to developing you. It's almost like you have to develop yourself more and come as more of a finished product. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You do. And that's tough. That's a big job.
Yeah. One of our listeners, Wayne, is asking, do you feel like this passion has been with you all your life?
Yeah, since I was maybe 5 years old, and like sat down at my parents' friend's piano or something. I started, doodling around with it. I started to sort of play by ear, and I sort of, bothered my parents long enough till they finally bought me a used piano. And then when, I saw the Beatles on television and all these acts coming from Great Britain, I had to have a guitar, so it turned into that too. Yeah. And I taught myself how to play guitar by using the little, in the old days, they used to have like little sort of squares with, on the sheet music, they used to have little squares where you put your fingers on the guitar that went along with the piano music. And I taught myself how to play chords by looking at those little squares.
Yeah, that's cool.
Figuring out where to put my fingers.
Yeah, I've actually seen those. Yeah. What's the funnest gig you've ever done in your life?
Ooh, I don't know. Being on tour with like Bob Seger and Boomtown Rats, and opening up for like Johnny Winter and stuff like that was all great. I mean, there wasn't like a down moment in any of that. So it's hard to pick like just one experience on stage, but there've been so many, and they've all been pretty much positive.
Any what's the most memorable fan? Anybody throw something at you or run up on stage? Anything you remember, good or bad, about a fan?
There was a girl from San Francisco who started sending me fan mail, and somehow she found out where I lived, and she found out where my apartment was in New York City, and she flew in from San Francisco and showed up at my door. So that was pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm sure. Wow. That's, we all, obviously for the indie artists like me, we all kind of want to make it a lot more than we have. But then all of a sudden you see someone like Justin Bieber talking about Billie Eilish and some of the stuff he went through. And that's got to be hard to not even be able to walk outside, go to the grocery store, go to a movie, without being mobbed. And, some people fantasize about that, but, again, be careful what you wish for until you might get it. It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough. But people, if that's what happens, I mean, you just have to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah. Any places that you want to visit the next year?
Yeah, I want to go back to Europe. That would be nice. I kind of would like to go back to London and Paris.
Okay.
I've been to those cities once or twice and really sort of fell in love with the whole Euro idea is sort of cool to me.
Yeah.
But right now I'm concentrating on Nashville and LA. So
sure,
we'll stop right there.
So let's say over the summer you go to Europe for 3 months and your plane touches down. What song's playing in your headphones?
Jeez, probably. If it's London, there's a Beatles track playing in my headphones.
Okay.
That's for sure.
How about your best karaoke song? And it can't be Shadows of the Night. You got to pick a different song.
Wow. Probably something by Foreigner or Journey or something like that would be funny.
All right. What do you think is the song you've listened to the most in your entire life?
Well, you're asking some tough questions.
I'm not trying to be tough. I'm just trying to be playful.
Okay, it's coming out of right field, left field rather. The song I listen to the most. Probably not one song, but the artist that I've listened to most, other than the Beatles, is probably Jimi Hendrix, maybe Bob Dylan.
That's cool. What was your first concert you went to? Not played at, but went to see someone else.
Went to, yeah. I think there were a number of people on the act. I think it was Van Morrison, the Allman Brothers, and Linda Ronstadt.
Wow. That's an interesting combination.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Wow,
Van Morrison was great. I mean, he just stands there. He doesn't move at all, but he was great to listen to.
Yeah.
He's not a real, like, you know, it's not like all over the stage like some acts are.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right, DL, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. When we get off this show, I'm definitely going to go listen to Shadows of the Night again. Now that song is stuck in my head, and I wish you nothing but the best. I hope your book really takes off, and hopefully the show help promote it a little bit for you.
I hope so. That's great. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem.
Really
have a great night, DL. All right.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. So in closing the show, again, I want to thank everyone for bearing with me tonight. I know my voice is struggling to get through the show, but I want to thank you for your patience. If there's any artists out there who want to be on the Songwriter Show, please shoot me an email. I'd be happy to have you on. I hope everyone's unique story gets heard around the world. Again, my name is Sarantos, and please join me every Tuesday night here to hear other fascinating artists share their behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And I'm going to leave you with a song tonight of mine called Close Your Eyes. This is essentially a calm but inspirational, relaxing song that's perfect to help you erase the stress from your mind, body, and soul. It's a new age song. There's not too many lyrics and vocals to it, but I think, to me, this is what heaven would sound like. And hopefully on your way to heaven, the angels will be singing this song to you. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy the song. And I love you, and thank you so much for tuning in with me every Tuesday night.
Now is your time to be healed. Now is your time.
listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.